Yep. Crossing the gap. Get out of here. This slushy snow at the end of your driveway can clog up your snowblower in a second. But can you prevent this from happening and make your snowblower do this with the same sloppy snow? Here's how. Hey guys and gals, welcome to Garage Gear. I'm JB, and just so we're clear here, these procedures are great for most two-stage snowblowers. And if you have a CRAFTSMAN, MTD, Cub Cadet, Yard Machines, or any other similar style snowblower, you're really gonna wanna lean in for this one. Okay, first step, we're pulling the spark plug to prevent any unwanted startups. Next, we gotta get the chute out of the way. I'm gonna take out this clearing stick to give us some extra room. And from here, I'm gonna pop this tab, and this is gonna help release our chute. They just slide out of the way like that. Same thing over here on this one, pop it up, slide it out, and then this chute should just come right out. Now that was pretty easy. Your chute may vary, but we need to get it out of the way so we can get down this tube. So looking down this tube, this here is your impeller. This is an impeller arm, also called an impeller blade or an impeller paddle. Whatever you want to call it, it only extends so far and does not butt up to the wall of the housing. This gap right here is what leads to a buildup of snow around the outside, around the outside, slowing down your impeller and limiting your throwing power. That little gap there is basically what's clogging up the works. And check it out, that gap is over a ½ inch. That is too big, we gotta narrow it down. Basically what we wanna do is close that gap up to about 1 millimeter or so. And we're gonna do it with this impeller kit. This video is not sponsored. I purchased this impeller kit with my own money. I'll have it linked down below in the description. Let's check this out. We have some 1/4 inch rubber paddles right here. I really like these slots because it allows you to nicely adjust them in place as you bolt them down. Don't these things look like burnt brownies? Then it comes with these stainless steel plates that you cover them up with as a giant washer to really hold them in place. Then you have all stainless steel hardware with lock nuts, and they even give you some self-tapping screws. And this is made in China. And help keep this video bolted down with the YouTube algorithm, would you mind hitting that like button? Thank you. What we're gonna do first is take a measurement of the size of our impeller. Looks like we're gonna need something measuring about 2 1/4 inches. Now there are 1, 2, and 3 impeller blades here. Now I have my 3 impeller paddles here, which are all relatively equal in terms of size, length, and width. Now from here, what I'm gonna do is taking my 2 holes, I'm gonna measure 2 1/4 inches around them. So I'm gonna take a silver pen here. If you have a silver Sharpie, that'll help as well. You could get away with a regular Sharpie. I've done it many, many times. You just want something that's gonna be kind of visible here on the black rubber so you can easily see it. And from here, we're just gonna draw a line straight across. Now you may not be able to see that so well on camera. You can kind of see the lines right there. That's where I need to cut. Hello, Mr. Wilton. Now I have my rubber paddles inside, locked down tight. Here's my line, and I have my multi-tool. And all I'm gonna do is just do one quick swoop, cut off the ends that I need, and I'm good to go. That's a pretty clean cut right there. Now we're just gonna flip them over and line up my other lines here. That's pretty good. This one's gonna be pretty tight to the vise. Hot knife through butter. They're not very big here, but that's exactly what we needed though. Now we have our paddles cut, and there's a reason why I left this plastic housing at the base of the chute on here still. Let me show you. Down at the base of the housing, you see 2 bolts right here and here that hold this plastic housing in place. As I put my impeller paddle up against those, we see that we have them rubbing mainly up against this one bolt. I can kind of shift this end over a little bit this way so it's not impacting with that impeller paddle. And our goal again is to get this as close to the metal edge as we can, but that bolt is sticking out. Nothing like having an obstacle in your way. So what we got to do is just carve out just a little notch on each of these impeller paddles so that way they're not rubbing around as they go. If you leave this as is, you're gonna hear this annoying brrrr whirring sound as the impeller is spinning nonstop. Cutting a little notch out of each impeller paddle will be a good thing too, because it'll improve the efficiency by getting the impeller paddle a little closer to that wall. So as we look a little closer, I line this up with the bolt that's inside. You can see the Sharpie that I used and then the silver Sharpie here. You can see that we have to chop out just this little corner out of each of the impeller paddles. From here, I'm gonna do the same process that I did before. I'm just gonna take my multi-tool and buzz out that little corner, do a little finesse work. Let's cut them out. There we go. From there, you can see where I cut out that notch. That worked perfect. That clears the bolt just fine. A little squeaky, and it butts right up to the metal. Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna take my Sharpie. I'm gonna draw my dots inside the holes of the paddle so that way I know exactly where to drill. There we go. And you can kind of see that I have my dots right here and right here. Now I'm going to draw these dots on all 3 blades. Second one's good, and now the third one's good. Now, since I have the bolt holes marked on every single impeller, I'm going to make work a little bit easier on myself, and I'm going to remove the 4 bolts that are holding on this plastic housing and get it out of the way so I have more room to drill. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 7/16 bolts. Let's take them out. Okay, then from here, we're just gonna slide this guy on back. Now look at how much more room we got to drill. We don't need any extenders or anything. Now I have a step bit here on my drill. Let's start poking some holes in that impeller. This is always the longest part. It takes forever to get through these things sometimes. That should do. There we go. 2 holes done. Oh, what the hell happened there? 2 more done. And there are the last 2. Now it's a good idea to vacuum out any shards that might be laying around. Now the next question is, do I want to take these metal plates and cut them down to size to fit over the top of these impeller paddles? No, what I'm going to do instead is simply take some washers and use these in their place. Washers on these will work just fine. I've done this many, many times, and in my experience, they hold down great. Just make sure that all your washers are the exact same size. From here, what I'm going to do is play a little game of loosely put the bolts in, so that way I can readjust them later when I put in this bottom panel and the bolts on the bottom. So now I have 1 bolt just loosely in place, and you can see that I can adjust this up or down, and that's thanks to these wide slots. That's really handy, so that way I can set it about 1 millimeter away from this outside wall. Pop our bolts in, take our lock nuts, put those on the bottom. You can see here that I'm reaching through the face of the snowblower to get the nuts on. You may have to do this a lot while you're tightening these down. I got a wrench on the other end and a 1/2-inch socket on this side. I'm just gonna loosely get these down. That looks better already. That's 1 in place, and I can always adjust them later. 2 more snug down. Now these impeller paddles may not be that big, but I can guarantee that these will make a world of a difference. I've actually used ones a little bit smaller, and they made the machine throw a lot farther. Now it's time to put our housing back on, so we're gonna slip our bolts back in. Good. Then we're gonna move this guy back into place. Good. No! Stay put. I'm gonna put my nuts on the end here. Same thing up here on top. Slide them in. Good. Now I'm just gonna tighten these 4 bolts down, holding this housing in place. Now you can see here that I'm pretty darn tight against that edge, and I'm kind of rubbing up against this bolt. That one has plenty of clearance right there. What I'm gonna do is just take a socket and just gently loosen these up, reposition this, and tighten it down where it needs to be. What you're gonna need for something like this is a socket set with a couple of extenders to get down that pipe. And from here, you just gotta finesse these in place to where it needs to be. Okay, so after gingerly tightening it down, you can see that it rubs right up to the edge. Okay, so I just finished tightening down all the bolts that are on every single impeller paddle. I got them all about 1 millimeter away from the wall. Now, before we do anything else, what we're gonna do is send this impeller around 1 more time, pull it, lift it, spin it around, make sure that it's not rubbing anywhere or making hard contact along its path around the housing. This way you don't have any problems down the road, and it's ready to throw some snow. Okay, so as I bring this impeller up, you can see that the bolts are not the problem now, it's the, boom. It's the plastic housing right here. You can see there's a little lip. There's a little lip on the inside edge of this housing, and we gotta saw it off so that way this impeller paddle can make its way through without catching anything. Believe it or not, a box knife actually cuts this plastic right off. Says a lot for the durability of a Craftsman. I think a piece was missing there to begin with, so you may have to cut a larger section off here. Let's see how she does now. Does she catch? Yeah, sweet. Passes right on through. Next one comes up and passes right on through. Cool. Last one. Does she clear it? Yes, she does. Perfect. From here, we're gonna snap our chute back on. Make sure you open up all your tabs and then simply drop it right into place. Press it down and then lock all your tabs back on. And good. She ain't coming off. And on goes the stick. And reinstall the spark plug. Good. We gave her the spin test. She looks good. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go fire it up. Okay, let's fire it up. All right, let's fire up those augers. Now while that impeller's spinning around, know this, it may make a little bit more noise than normal and you might smell a little bit of burning rubber. That's okay, that's the impellers breaking into the housing in which they're in. That usually goes away after 1 or 2 uses. To me, it sounds like the noise already went down. Usually it's a great idea to let these run for about a minute or 2 to let them break in. Now as the snowblower is breaking in up there, I took a look around, the temperature has gone up, the snow's kind of gotten a little bit more sticky, and they salted the roads. So everything's kind of gone up in temperature here. This should really stick better to the inside of the snowblower. Let's give it a test. A little extra slushy down here. Now we have a couple of goals here. The first goal is to see if this snow can make it all the way to the other bank. It has to clear this gap. The rest of the snow before kind of landed here in the middle. Let's see if we can get a majority over it to the other side. Some may land here, that's okay, but if a majority makes it, I'm happy. Another goal is to see if the inside of the impeller housing is clear of snow and nothing's caked up. And the main goal of installing an impeller kit is to make sure that we can throw that heavy wet stuff here at the end of the driveway. Let's see if we can do it. And in case anybody's wondering why I'm throwing snow this direction, I understand it makes sense to throw it this way. This is the direction the plows go. But there's always a breeze. It's always going this direction. There is a breeze right now, and I don't want to catch any snow in the face. Whoa! Not bad. Full bucket. Look at that. Let's take another pass at that. That was crazy. That shot right over everything. Here we go. Yep. Crossing the gap. Get out of here. Check that out. From there, basically to the end of this driveway, all the way over. And you can see where a majority of it landed here by the mailbox. Not bad. Some of the pellets making it even further. Let's clear out this last chunk. Look at that. Full bucket. Gone. With a CRAFTSMAN. Not bad. Now underneath this stuff that I just threw is some slushy wet stuff. Let's see if I can throw it over this bank and maybe over the sidewalk. Look at that. All the wet stuff. Yeah. Get it out of here. The chute's vibrating like crazy. Ate right through that. Let's clean the rest of this stuff up. Marching right through it. That's what I love to see right there. More slushy stuff. Let's get rid of it. Gone. Not bad, CRAFTSMAN. You did all right today. Here's what impresses me the most. See the impeller? See the inside? See the track of the clear space? Nothing there. That's what we want to see. Ain't no clogging happening with this impeller. Now, here are some more tips and tricks to help you out with this procedure and some commonly asked questions that pop up around impeller kits. Here's some info about the snow that I just threw. This was a same-day slushy snow test, only shot a few hours apart. And keep in mind, your results may vary with the type of snow that you may get. The snow was actually pretty good for this test, and I made sure on both tests to take a full bucket of snow into the auger housing. This kept our test equally close to really try to bog down that blower. Throwing distance. No question about it, this does improve your throwing distance. This wasn't a massive improvement, but still really good for this CRAFTSMAN snowblower. This chute doesn't exactly help because it's so short and stubby. Not to worry, CRAFTSMAN, we won't tell the ladies about your little problem. Even though we increased the length of each impeller arm by only a ½ an inch, it made a big difference. And in my experience, every snowblower that I've installed an impeller kit on saw an increase in throwing distance. Now the big win here comes at the end of the driveway where you find the heavy, wet, slushy snow. Instead of the snowblower just clogging up and then just dropping the snow out of the chute, it launches it. It keeps the impeller moving and clearing out any sticky snow that might be trying to bond up inside. Now let's talk about the paddles. I've put these paddles on many snowblowers over the years. I'll have some of the other installs I've done linked down below in the description. I've had them on my old errands for over 10 years now. You can make your own from a set of rubber mud flaps, maybe the sidewall of a tire, and I've even got some old conveyor belt that I used to make mine out of. As long as whatever rubber paddles you use are cut to the same equal size and weight, you're good. Cutting your impellers at different sizes could throw off your balance of your impeller and make it shake a little bit. Now, our impeller basically looks like this. If you have 3 impeller blades, you must put 3. Now, if for some reason you have 4 impeller blades, you could hypothetically get away with just putting 2 impeller paddles on. Make sure that they're on opposite ends of each other. Example, north-south, east-west. Typically, if I put them on, I usually put them on all 4 sides. This just ramps up the throwing power. And ultimately, it squeegees more snow right out. Belts. Personally, I haven't seen any issues with them after installing an impeller kit. Unless your paddles are really tight up against that impeller housing, you really should not have any major issues. This may put a little bit extra load on the belts because the impeller is now picking up a little extra snow as it's passing through. But again, in my experience, I've never had any issues other than just basic wear and tear. Self-tapping screws. I've talked to many people that have used these instead. I use them because they're easier to install. That is true, but keep in mind, there's nothing holding them down on the other end, unlike a bolt and a nut. Screws are essentially a wedge, and you do you. I just like using nuts and bolts. When you use these, they ain't coming free. And these kits only come with 4, not enough to do the job. I look at it like this. If you're planning to keep the snowblower for an extended period of time, then use the nuts and bolts. And if you're planning to get rid of the snowblower in a little while, well then just use some self-tapping screws. Silicone sprays and other coatings on the auger housing. Stuff like this does help, but let's be real. After the first couple passes, a majority is usually wiped off from all the friction of the snow passing through the snowblower. Products like this are mainly used for rust protection. And if you've been following this channel for any length of time, you know that we like to lube things up around here. And speaking of rust protection, be sure to check out my full snowblower rust proofing course. I'll have that link down below in the description. This CRAFTSMAN snowblower was coated with silicone spray prior to the first test. And in my experience, this mod will outbeat any spray you put inside, which I still do. Now, this whole procedure only took about 1 hour to complete, so it can easily be done on a Saturday afternoon, no problem. And this may vary depending on the snowblower brand that you have, but here's an added bonus. It ups the resale value of the snowblower when you go to resell it. I have found that every single time I sell a snowblower with an impeller kit on it, I get about $50 to $100 more on the sale. I consider mods like this an investment because I know I'm gonna get my money back later on. I also get a lot of subscribers asking, why don't they just install this in the first place? I heard that a brand did this decades ago. Not sure which one though, but my guess is time and production costs get in the way. Aaron's, think about it. If I ran a snowblower company and I said that mine never clogged and threw farther, I think I'd be selling a few more snowblowers than my competitors. Next, someone's gonna say it. You just voided the warranty. On a 10-year-old snowblower, dude, take a walk. Will doing a procedure like this void the warranty? Well, according to most owner's manuals, any alterations to the unit itself can actually void the warranty. So yes, am I afraid? No. The snowblower now performs better, and so has every other one that I put an impeller kit on. And if something happens to my snowblower, I'll fix it. Maybe I'll make another video on it. So if you're afraid of doing this, wait until your warranty expires and then have at it. Do so at your own risk. I will say this, I did install this impeller modification on my Aaron's Deluxe 28 1 year into owning it. It threw better and never had a single issue. The Garage Geezer still has it. This CRAFTSMAN snowblower not only gives the user a power boost going through those heavy, wet snowbanks, but also a huge confidence boost knowing that the snowblower will never clog again. For more cool garage gear content, click or tap the screen right here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the garage.